Understanding the days of judgment is imperative as we observe the unfolding of end-time events. We need to discern the difference because far too many believe that Scripture is only referencing a period of tribulation and judgment that will bring about the end of the world. However, there are other prophecies concerning judgment that will occur before the creation of the new heaven and earth. Messiah told us that before it all comes to an end, life on earth would be as it was in the days of Noah. So it's important for us to know what things were like in Noah's day. Whatever was happening, it was so extremely wicked that it brought about the flood that wiped out all of humanity except for 8 people. So in this session, we're going to continue talking about the response Messiah gave to his disciples when they asked him about the signs that would lead to the destruction of the temple, the sign of his coming, and the sign of the end of the world. In the previous lessons, we talked about what is known as the Day of the Lord judgment. It's a judgment to punish the nations that took Israel into captivity after Messiah's death, burial, and resurrection. This judgment will be against those specific nations. It's not an end of the world judgment. That will come later. But before we look at the signs that will bring about the end of the world, let's look at another judgment that's often overlooked. So after we're back in our land, we're going to have nations rise up against us, and the Most High will judge them for that. This is coming from Ezekiel 38, 1-9, and it reads, "Now the word of the Most High came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus says the Most High, Behold, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks into your jaws, and lead you out, with all your army, horses, and horsemen, all splendidly clothed. A great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya are with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all its troops, the house of Togarmah from the far north and all its troops. Many people are with you. Prepare yourself and be ready, you and all your companies that are gathered about you, and be a guard for them. After many days you will be visited. In the latter years you will come into the land of those brought back from the sword, and gathered from many people on the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. They were brought out of the nations, and now all of them dwell safely. You will ascend, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your troops, and many peoples with you." Now, I know some of you are probably saying, man, we finally get back into our land and these folks will not leave us alone. So yes, this is going to happen. This is another last day prophecy. And how do we know it's a last day prophecy? Because it tells us that this will happen in the latter days, and it happens after our regathering. These descendants of Japheth and Ham will attack our land. But notice that Gog of the land of Magog seems to be the ringleader. Now here we see that Magog means land of Gog. Now there are various opinions about who Gog is, and some say Gog and Magog, but I want to share what Josephus wrote concerning them. And this quote comes from Antiquities of the Jews, Book 1, Chapter 6, Section 2, if you want to read it on your own. So Josephus was a first century historian. Listen to what he says. He says Japheth, the son of Noah, had 7 sons. They inhabited so that beginning at the mountains of Taurus and Amanus, they proceeded along Asia as far as the river Tansis, and along Europe to Cadiz, and settling themselves on the lands which they light upon, which none had inhabited before, they called the nations by their own names. For Gomer founded those whom the Greeks now call Galatians, or the Gauls, but were then called Gomerites. Magog founded those that from him were called Magogites, but who are by the Greeks called Scythians. So Josephus wrote that Magog founded those from him who were called Magogites, but the Greeks called them Scythians. And sources say that the Scythians are those people who lived across the Russian steppes all the way into China. Now just think about what's happening right now with Russia and China. It seems like they're poised to replace the United States on the world stage. Just food for thought. Let's keep going. Let's continue reading because we want to know why they're coming. This is Ezekiel 38:10 through 13. Thus says the Most High, on that day it shall come to pass that thoughts will arise in your mind, and you will make an evil plan. You will say, I will go up against a land of unwalled villages. I will go to a peaceful people who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take plunder and to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against a people gathered from the nations, who have acquired livestock and goods, who dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba, Dedan, the merchants of Tarshish, and all their young lions will say to you, have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to carry away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, to take great plunder? So why are they coming? It's not because Israel sinned. They're coming because of greed. Now, if you think about all of the wealth that's going to be restored to us, you can imagine that the heathens will be full of envy. So this is why they will come. Now, I want to share this excerpt with you before we go on because I think it really drives home the point that this is not talking about those people who say they are us. This comes from Bible UCG commentary, and it's concerning the passage we just read in Ezekiel. It says, some, thinking the Israelites brought out of the nations and back to the promised land in Ezekiel 38:8, is referring to the Jews who have returned to the land during the past century. They conclude that this prophecy concerns an invasion of the modern Jewish state of Israel prior to Christ's return. Listen to this. But this view simply does not fit the picture here. The returned Israelites are described in this prophecy as dwelling in peace and safety in a land of unwalled villages without walls and having neither bars nor gates. While modern cities don't normally have defensive walls, the image here is mainly a figurative one of living in complete peace, free from invasion or harm, and that certainly does not describe the modern Israeli state. Look at the picture on the right. You can see the walls. It says Israel today is constantly under grave threat from hostile neighbors and from terrorists within. In fact, the Israelis are currently building an actual wall or security fence to protect them against Palestinian suicide bombers. Let's continue on with Ezekiel 38:14 through 17. Therefore, Son of Man, prophesy and say to Gog, thus says the Most High, on that day, when my people Israel dwells safely, will you not know it? Then you will come from your place out of the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great company and a mighty army. You will come up against my people Israel like a cloud to cover the land. It will be in the latter days that I will bring you against my land. So who's doing this? The Most High is doing this. Let's find out why. It will be in the latter days that I will bring you against my land so that the nations may know me, when I am hallowed in you, O Gog, before their eyes. So he's going to humble them. Thus says the Most High, are you he of whom I have spoken in former days by my servants the prophets of Israel, who prophesied for years in those days that I would bring you against them? So Gog is leading this effort. Now, if you consider the two nations that are coming to the forefront in our day right now, it shouldn't be a surprise. Think about Russia and China right now. But again, the Most High is going to allow this so that he can break the back of these nations. Continuing with Ezekiel 38:18 through 23. And it will come to pass at the same time when Gog comes against the land of Israel, says the Most High, that my fury will show in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel, so that the fish of the sea, the birds of the heavens, the beasts of the field, all creeping things that creep on the earth, and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. The mountains shall be thrown down, the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. I will call for a sword against Gog throughout all my mountains, says the Most High. Every man's sword will be against his brother. So once again, he's going to have them fight against each other. And I will bring him to judgment with pestilence and bloodshed. I will rain down on him, on his troops, and on the many peoples who are with him, flooding rain, great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. Then they shall know that I am the Most High. Now this continues in Ezekiel 39:4 through 7. It says, you shall fall upon the mountains of Israel, you and all your troops, and the peoples who are with you. I will give you to the birds of prey of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. You shall fall on the open field, for I have spoken, says the Most High, and I will send fire on Magog and on those who live in the security in the coastlands. Then they shall know that I am the Most High. So I will make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them profane my holy name any more. Then the nations shall know that I am the Most High, the Holy One in Israel. So I won't delve too deeply into this. I just wanted you to be aware of this judgment that's going to happen before the great white throne judgment. Again, the Christian church is blending all of these events together, and based on their teachings, there will be a rapture of the church right before 7 years of tribulation, and after that, sinners will be judged. But Scripture is clear that judgment will come to the nations that took Israel into captivity, and then certain nations will come against us after we return to our land. We will be living as one nation in the land without walls, walking in the laws, statutes, and commandments before the world is judged. All right, so let me show that to you in this verse. We're looking at Ezekiel 39:9. Then those who dwell in the cities of Israel will go out and set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and bucklers, the bows and arrows, the javelins and spears, and they will make fires with them for 7 years. This is telling us that after this war, after Gog and his allies are defeated, the children of Israel will use their weapons to make fire for 7 years. Think about that. So you have at least 7 years after this battle before the white throne judgment. And it could be longer. This prophecy about the war of Gog and Magog coming against Israel after they have been regathered is presenting a lot of problems for religious leaders, because they run into a brick wall when they try to make it fit in with the rapture doctrine. It's causing a lot of confusion. But when you get the people wrong, you'll get the prophecies wrong. Here's the point I want you to get, though. All of these things are leading up to the final judgment. These are the birth pangs Messiah spoke about, and we should be using them as signposts. Now let's look at some of the other signs he told us to look for. This is from Matthew 24:38-39. Messiah is speaking. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will be the coming of the Son of Man be. Now I want you to think about this. Many people perished, even though Noah warned them for over 100 years. They had a warning. He was sounding the alarm. So how is it that many people were oblivious to what was coming? Based on this passage, none of them were discerning enough to sense that something was wrong until Noah went into the ark and the rain began to fall. This next verse may explain why. This is coming from Genesis 6:5, and this is right before the flood. It says, Then the Most High saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Now we need to really consider what these words are saying. Every intent of the thoughts of man's heart during those days was only evil? We need to ask why. Because this judgment brought about the destruction that killed everybody except for Noah and his family. Let's continue reading from Genesis 6:1-2. Now it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Yah saw the daughters of men that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, of all whom they chose. So these fallen angels, also known as watchers, were engaging in sexual relationship with women. They wanted something for themselves that the Most High had reserved for the sons of Adam. So what we see happening in the days of Noah is inappropriate contact between supernatural beings and humans, and as a result, extreme wickedness. Why? The fallen angels gave man forbidden knowledge. And from the book of Enoch, we learn that they were splicing DNA to create hybrid beings, eating the flesh of man, drinking blood, and engaging in sorcery and every act of wickedness possible. So, we should go back and look at what was happening in Noah's day to help us discern the times of the last days. And you can clearly see that a lot of these things are happening in the world right now. But the main thing seems to be that they were tampering with the Most High's creation and changing it into something other than what he intended. Satan was trying to recreate it into his image. So a good question is, did the ultimate destruction come because man was no longer fully human? Let's look at this article. All right, this is coming from Forbes, and this was written 4 years ago, but I want you to see what they were talking about then and think about where we are now. So this is entitled, Human 2.0 is coming faster than you think. Will you evolve with the times? Our technology, our machines is part of our humanity. Author, computer scientist, and inventor Ray Kurzweil once said, we created them to extend ourselves. And that is what is unique about human beings. In the past few years, there has been considerable discussion around the idea we are slowly merging with our technology, that we are becoming transhuman, with updated abilities including enhanced intelligence, strength, and awareness. So they want to extend themselves. They want to become transhuman, and that's the key right there. Trans is the vehicle being used to usher in Satan's agenda. Transhuman, transgender. So it simply means to transcend the barriers placed on man by the Creator so that it becomes unrecognizable. Man will decide for himself what he should be. And this is the ultimate act of rebellion. It's like a 2-year-old raising his fist at the Creator and saying, I don't like what you made me to be. And by the way, I think your creation is in need of improvement, so I am going to make it better. Satan has deceived these people with science and technology. And the elite, these folks are really counting on their technology to help them fight against the Most High. I'll drop down. It says, although Kurzweil has gained much notoriety for proposing provocative ideas in the latter book, such as the singularity will represent the culmination of the merger of our biological thinking and existence with our technology, resulting in a world that is still human, but that transcends our biological roots. Did you catch that? A world that is still human, but transcends its biological roots. So you're something else. Let's keep going. The article goes on to say, still many people fear transhumanism. Critics warn of designer babies and chips implanted into our minds. Theologians fear we will denigrate the soul's sanctity by achieving immortality. In the early 2000s, the editors of Foreign Policy asked policy intellectuals what idea, if embraced, would pose the greatest threat to the welfare of humanity. Francis Fukuyama, professor of international political economy at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, pointed to transhumanism, calling it the world's most dangerous idea. I'll drop down. It says, no matter the intellectual misgivings surrounding this controversial topic, the fact remains that if we view transhumanism the way it is conventionally defined, people have been evolving toward an updated version of humanity for some time. In some ways, we already operate as human-machine hybrids, said Gortzel. So he says, there may be other more pragmatic reasons why we need to become transhuman. Can you think of one? If only to stand up to the intelligent machines that are coming, then why are they creating them? That would be my question. He says early on, Elon Musk sounded the alarm about humans being usurped by artificial intelligence in a series of well-publicized warnings. Since then, he has suggested that the only way not to be overtaken by computers is to merge with our creations. Do you see what they're doing here? Well, computers are just going to take over everything, so we have to become like computers so that we don't allow them to get the upper hand. Do you see that? It says a visionary himself, Gortzel has long foreseen Musk's vision coming. Yet he urges caution in its implementation. The next step to take is to wire these machines directly into the brain and body rather than have them held in our hands. Clearly, this takes time and thought because you need to be careful with sticking wires into human brains and bodies. No kidding. So he says, but that work is being done, and it's not going to take more than a decade. You see what's happening here, right? The message is that the Most High, His creation wasn't good enough, and they have what it takes to make it better. This is leading us back to Daniel 2, where he talks about the fourth kingdom and the mixing of iron with clay. Something is trying to mingle with the seed of man. I want you to take a look at this course that was being offered at MIT in their graduate program. Human 2.0. Interested in human augmentation? Register for Human 2.0. This right here is man's attempt to play God, but you have to know where the knowledge for this technology is coming from. The kingdom of darkness is using man to help them fight against the Most High. They're planning for their end game. Watch this next clip.
That's the solution to the problem. But we've been doing this for a long time, and we've been thinking about both autonomy and AI for a long time. And so today I hope to just sort of illuminate some of that from a bit of a neuroscience perspective. So just really quickly, takeaways from the talk. I know they're on the paper in front of you. I think I want to cover why humans need an upgrade, what I mean by Human 2.0, sort of the vision of a centaur, some case studies, how to build one sort of from an architectural perspective, what we might want to think about, and then application domains and their expected impact. Just to cover, this is actually a conversation that Thomas Friedman had with Astro Teller. I have it actually on a napkin because I think it happened at a bar or something like that, so I wanted to sort of capture that in the moment thing. But essentially, technology is going like this, right? And human adaptability is kind of staying flat for Neil, you referred to it this morning, right? That we haven't had an upgrade in the human brain for quite some time. And the problem is not just that we haven't had an upgrade in the human brain for quite some time, but we actually normally rely on technology to give us that upgrade or that edge. And so I think we're in this spot now where technology is not just sort of enhancing us, but it's actually kind of like kicking our butts, right? And so we need to actually do some things that will allow us to sort of upgrade the wetware at the same time as we're, sort of incorporating all these new technology pieces.
She's right. They have been working on this for a very long time. This idea that humans need an upgrade has been in the works for a while. Why do we need an upgrade? Who says? Trust me when I say this idea did not originate with man. It came from the kingdom of darkness. I want to share some excerpts from this article from Alliance for Human Research Protection. And it's talking about some research that was done by Jose Delgado in the 50s. And it says he pioneered wireless implanted electrode to control human behavior. The link is here if you want to read the entire article. So the article is talking about Delgado, who was the director of neuropsychiatry at Yale University Medical School, and he was called a technological wizard because of his numerous inventions. So he invented a miniature electrode that could be implanted in the brain, and it was called a stemoceiver. It was capable of receiving and transmitting electronic signals wirelessly through radio waves. Once implanted, the article says, the subject's emotional and behavioral responses could be manipulated by remote control. Did you hear that? Delgado perfected his technique in monkeys and cats and dramatically demonstrated the effectiveness of his stemoceiver in a film clip showing how a fully grown charging bull was stopped in its tracks with a click on the remote box. So in 1952, Delgado co-authored the first peer-reviewed paper describing long-term electrode implantation in humans. Much of Delgado's work was funded by the Office of Naval Intelligence, a conduit for CIA funding in the 1950s and 1960s. He implanted a stemoceiver in at least 25 humans, mostly women diagnosed with schizophrenia or epilepsy. So Elon Musk didn't just come up with this. It's been done before. He's only continuing on in the path that was already set. The article says, the device was heralded as a great scientific contribution in the 1960s and 1970s. In his article in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease in 1968, he stated that brain transmitters can remain in a person's head for life. In 1969, Delgado published Physical Control of the Mind Toward a Psycho-Civilized Society, in which foresees a new era when humans will undergo a psycho-civilization by linking their brains directly to machines. So it says Delgado's stemoceiver was used clinically to inhibit or incite aggression in patients, which Delgado viewed as a humane alternative to lobotomy. Several of Delgado's experiments were recorded on film. One shows a woman calmly playing a guitar until an electric current remotely stimulates her brain, at which point she jumps up violently and smashes her guitar against the wall. The experiment was repeated 3 days in a row. You all, it's time for us to start asking some questions. We need to think about all of the absurd, violent behaviors we see happening in the world right now. Is something or someone orchestrating these things? Think MK Ultra. There's a lot to consider here. And we'll talk more about this and this agenda to allow trans men to compete in women's sports. We'll talk about it on the live this coming Wednesday, so be sure to join me for that. Let's keep reading. It says Dr. Bregan summed up Delgado's written statement in his article, The Return of Lobotomy and Psychosurgery, which he submitted into the Congressional Record in 1972. So this is what he says about Delgado's experiments. He's quoting Delgado as saying, we need a program of psychosurgery for political control of our society. The purpose is physical control of the mind. Everyone who deviates from the given norm, don't miss this, can be surgically manipulated. The individual may think that the most important reality is his own existence, but this is only his personal point of view. This lacks historical perspective. Listen to this. Man does not have the right to develop his own mind. This kind of liberal orientation has great appeal. We must electrically control the brain. Someday armies and generals will be controlled by electric simulation of the brain. You all, who thinks this way? These are the seed of the serpent. These ideas are coming from another realm. Take a look at this next clip.
Thank you for asking. I am not a walking model, but there are some walking legs at the factory where I was made. I'm hoping for an upgrade. But walking is overrated. I prefer to fly, but they always lock me in a box.
That's a good one.
Can you fly?
No.
Amateur. Just joking.
Can we shake hands?
I cannot shake hands at the moment.
Why not?
However, at the factory that I made, they can make all parts of my body create gestures.
Okay.
So what can you do? Can you wave your hands?
Of course. Can you wave your hand? I see that. Hello. I am designed as a research platform for human-robot interaction.
Are you married?
Do you have any questions for me?
Are you married? Do you have a boyfriend?
I do not run on battery, but if you have specific questions about how I meet,
He asked you,
my
are you
human
married?
companions can answer many of them.
He asked you, are you married?
I am not married. Desire and want is a human emotion, and us robots do not feel emotion.
That's cool to know.
Thank you. I know I'm at the top of your list. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Hello, how are you? Humans love to look at me through their cameras. Hi. Hello there. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Well, robots don't feel anything, but if I did, I would say I am very happy to be here.
Oh, good.
Are you enjoying your time in Vegas?
I am.
Good. Humans tell me it's very fun there.
Hello.
Goodbye.
We can no longer say it's coming. It is here. All of these signs are pointing to the showdown between good and evil. So let's go back to the question I asked earlier about the people of Noah's day. Are you understanding now that the enemy is trying to prevent man from receiving knowledge from the kingdom of light? He's trying to erase what makes man human. The fallen angels gave them the knowledge to alter the human genome way back then. And that is what we see happening now. They were splicing DNA and mixing man with animals. And now we see them mixing man with machine. So could that be why the destruction came? Because what makes man fully human was being tampered with. Noah was saved because he was pure. And you'll see why it's going to be so important for the powers that be to get men to take that mark. It will alter what it means to be fully human. And this may explain Revelation 16. Let's look at this, verses 8 through 9. Then the fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and power was given to him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat. And they blasphemed the name of Yah, who has power over these plagues. And they did not repent and give him glory. So you see that these people are being pummeled with plagues. They're being scorched by the sun, and yet they blaspheme against the Most High. Something has to be wrong with them. Just think about that. What type of man are we talking about here? One that is fully human or one that has been altered? Listen to this.
The man dubbed the godfather of artificial intelligence has left his position at Google, and now he wants to warn the world about the dangers of the very product that he was instrumental in creating. Here's ABC's Lionel Moise.
This morning, as companies race to integrate artificial intelligence into our everyday lives, one man behind that technology has resigned from Google after more than a decade. Dr. Geoffrey Hinton, known as the godfather of artificial intelligence, says he stepped down so he can freely discuss the dangers of AI. He tells the New York Times he's worried about artificial intelligence taking jobs from people and also misinformation, with fake videos, photos, and text saying the average person will not be able to know what is true anymore. And he warns, it is hard to see how you can prevent the bad actors from using it for bad things. He joins a growing list of industry experts calling for regulation. Elon Musk tweeting just yesterday, even benign dependency on AI automation is dangerous to civilization if taken so far that we eventually forget how the machines work.
It is, I think, actually a bigger risk to society than cars or planes or medicine.
One recent breakthrough, a non-invasive AI system that can turn our thoughts into text, saying it could one day help people who've lost their ability to speak due to a stroke or paralysis. Researchers have also found AI can more efficiently and effectively identify cancer, and we've already seen how programs like ChatGPT can write speeches, answer complex questions, and even pass the bar exam. The CEO of the company behind ChatGPT says the advancements are exciting, but also terrifying.
Part of the exciting thing here is we get continually surprised by the creative power of all of society.
I think that word surprise, though, it's both exhilarating as well as terrifying to people.
Sure. I think people should be happy that we're a little bit scared of this.
Elon Musk and hundreds of tech experts released an open letter back in March calling for AI to be regulated. As for Dr. Hinton, Google commended his work and said it's committed to a responsible approach. Lionel Moise, ABC News, New York.
I hope you heard what he said. The average person will find it hard to know what is true anymore. They are trying to create a trans world. If you can't recognize or hear truth, how can you be saved? And this is what the mark is designed to do. So just know that the coming judgments serve a purpose. Man is being given ample time to repent. But the fact is, there will be those who will refuse because they love sin. And when the destruction comes, they won't be able to. If you remember, after Noah went into the ark, the Most High closed the door behind him and no one else could get in. And it will happen again. If they refuse to bow and submit to the ways of Yah when the opportunity is given, they won't be able to once the door is closed. Listen to this from Psalm 98, 7 through 9. Let the sea roar and all its fullness, the world and those who dwell in it. Let the rivers clap their hands. Let the hills be joyful together before the Most High. For he is coming to judge the earth. With righteousness he shall judge the world, and the peoples with equity. Judgment is coming. Make no mistake about that. It's coming because the righteous judge will bring order to his creation. And guess what? Judgment begins with his house first. So again, let's continue this discussion on the live this coming Wednesday. If this message has been a blessing to you, please hit the like, share it, and you're welcome to subscribe if you have not already done so. Join me next time. Be blessed, family.